שלום, קוראים לי מישל קנרק, אני בוגר מסלול עורב גולני, מחזור נובמבר 85. הקדטת הזאת מוקדשת לכל לוחמי חטיבת גולני. לוחמי גדוד ברק, גדוד גדעון, גדוד הבוקר הראשון, החאן, העורב ויחידת החי"ר הכי מובחרת בצה"ל, סיירת גולני. Hi, my name is Mike Lee Canarik. Congratulations on purchasing the Fight Training Set video series, the most comprehensive Israeli hand-to-hand combat training set on the market as of today. The Fight system uses a system named Agana, and I'd like to explain to you exactly what is Agana. Agana literally translates from Hebrew to English as defense. However, it is the legacy of the word Agana as used in Israel that we have chose the name Agana for our system. Historically, Agana was the underground Jewish army of Israel before it got established in 1948. At that time, that army was an army of partisans with very limited amount of military training and resources. Clandestine methods were improvised on a daily basis to be able to beat the ratio of 1 to 100 against the enemy. In other words, it came out of a necessity of survival because we had to beat the odds. At that time, the Agana organized small teams called the Palmach. Palmach stands for Plugot Machatz, which is the strike force teams, which were teams of guerrilla warfare that were there to beat the odds. It is in that time that the Agana was seeded into what it became today. In other words, it's the history from that point until today, and I'll explain in a second how the Agana system evolved into what it is today. Historically, and for its combat history and integrity and legacy, Haganah belongs to the people of Israel. Haganah belongs first and for all for the veterans of the IDF of each generation that fought each war of the freedom of Israel. It belongs from the infantry, IDF, special ops, all the way up to the Israeli Air Force. Then it also belongs especially to the mothers of Israel. Mothers in Israel see their sons go to war to sometimes never see them again. So you have to understand the relationship of the hardship of what Israel went through the last decades to understand what the Agana went through to become what it is uniquely today. Agana stands with two H's, one in the beginning, one at the end. The first H in the beginning represents the hardship. In other words, that Agana was created out of hardship, in the hot zone, in the line of fire, so to speak. In other words, you have to understand that this is not something recreational. It's not a sports system that was created for entertainment. This was a need of survival. The second H stands for hardcore. You have to do everything we teach you hardcore. There is no place for weakness in combat. If you're weak for 1 second, mentally or physically, the enemy will take over. So the second H stands for hardcore. This is Agana. Welcome to our world. Components of Agana. Agana derives out of 4 different systems: 2 Israeli martial arts, Krav Maga and Hissardut, and 2 IDF military systems, Kapap and Lotar. We have carefully designed a curriculum that integrates all those 4 as one unique integrated defensive and fighting system, that one takes the best out of each element to make it a unique way for you to be able to defend yourself in an all-out violent attack. We have taken the self-defense components of Krav Maga, which they're known for. We have taken the fighting techniques from the Hissardut, which they're known for, created a unique way of doing it together, integrated together, combined with the tactics and the strategies of the military to make it effective. I have a guideline in the Agana system that's called the Wolf guideline. In Hebrew, Wolf is Zev. Zev, it's C-E-V. Each technique we do has to be combative. In other words, this technique that I'm going to teach you has to be proven in combat. In other words, it's combative in the sense of somebody before you already proven it works in combat. I don't want you to go into an encounter and say, is this going to work? Is this only a theory? No, it's combat proven. We already proven on the battlefield, in the streets in Israel, that it's proven. E stands for effective. The technique has to be effective. There are techniques that are very effective in Krav Maga. There are techniques that are very effective in Hissardut. I really don't care where they came from. If they're effective, they got poured into the Agana system. Same thing happens with the Israeli tactics of the army. In other words, this is a modern society. There is going to be firearms, blades, this and that. We had to integrate those military tactics to make it complete. And finally, you got the V, which is for violence. The technique has to work under violence. Only a violent technique will beat another violent technique. It's a reality. You cannot go around it. So taking the Krav Maga, taking the Hissardut, taking the Kapap, taking the Lotar, that's what makes the Haganah system so unique in the sense of its comprehensive, complete system to prepare you to survive a complete violent attack. Now, what exactly is Krav Maga? Krav Maga is the self-defense style of Israel. It stands for combat contact. As Krav Maga evolved in the civilian world of Israel, it became the self-defense style of Israel. What is Hissardut? Hissardut stands for survival. It is the fighting style of Israel. In Israel, everybody that does survival Hissardut, it's more of a fighting style. There's competition in survival Hissardut versus in Krav Maga, there is no competition because they concentrate on self-defense. So what we did is we took the best element of Krav Maga, we took the best element of Hissardut and combined them together to complement each other. In other words, they complete each other. And we have did that in a unique way of integration of the defensive with the fighting. Then comes Kapap and Lotar. Kapap Lotar makes this possible. In other words, we are giving you kind of like a special ammo with the Kapap and Lotar. If you only do Krav Maga and you only do Hissardut, it's okay, it's good. It's already proven that it's good. But the Kapap and the Lotar is going to supercharge it. In other words, it's going to give you that edge in the encounter. We're going to give you objectives. We're going to give you point of references. We're going to make you think how special ops in the Israeli army think. We're going to give you a plan versus you don't know where you're going with this. And that's where the Kapap and the Lotar walks in. Now, Kapap is known for its hand-to-hand combat because in the history of the Israeli Defense Force, Kapap was first. So it's more the hand-to-hand combat and a lot of knife techniques. Lotar, in the Haganah system, introduces our practitioner to firearms training. What do I do after I take that firearm out of his hand? Now I have to defend myself with it. Lotar stands for Lochama Beterror. Lochama Beterror in Hebrew means counterterrorism. So we are giving you a complete different level here. We're taking you to kind of the behind the scenes of the IDF special ops and giving you an access to how they do it in Israel in the high hands units, not only on a civilian level. So Haganah combines all those four and it will give you a chance to be there last standing when the reality hits you and when everything comes at you at full force with a full intention. When somebody attacks you, they're not going to be nice. In other words, that's going to come at you like a fireball. So all those four combined together is what makes the Haganah system unique and what makes it that we'll be able to program you with you building a true confidence that you can defend yourself because you trust the system from A to Z.